So when we think of prayer, especially people in the West, I suppose people who are in a country that's predominantly Christian actually, but when we think of prayer, we immediately associate it with Christianity and praying to God. But this isn't exactly the case. Prayer's ages old. I mean, you can stand in a runic stance and pray to a Nordic God or goddess, and it's still prayer. If we have a look at the definition of prayer, it is a solemn request for help or expression of thanks addressed to God or another deity. So prayer can be to God or any other deity, and I actually prefer to bring in any spiritual being into this. Because you might not be praying to a deity. It may be a spirit guide, it may be your ancestors, it may be your own higher self. So I prefer to say that it's more of a conversation with a spiritual being, and that conversation can be asking for help or saying thanks. So when it comes to manifestation, with manifestation, what we're basically doing is trying to bring ourselves into the now, and within that process we're also giving thanks, because we have that feeling appreciation of we have the thing that we want now in the present moment, so that we can bring it into our reality. So in a sense we are giving thanks when we are doing manifestation techniques, and at the same time we are requesting help because we are in a situation, or we may be in a situation where we need a particular thing like money to pay bills, whatever it may be. So therefore we're asking for help, but because of the process of needing to bring the feeling appreciation into the now, then we have to give thanks at the same time. So manifestation and prayer, they very much go hand in hand. And if you watched my 10 types of manifestation techniques, I actually left this one out. I'm not sure why, because it is actually one of my favorites. And it helps me to visualize and actually get that feeling of appreciation. As I'm talking, it makes it a lot easier for me. So you might want to try this with your visualization or whatever other manifestation technique you're actually using. Now, if you haven't watched last week's video, I do suggest watching it, because that's about how to clear your mind before you actually start doing a manifestation technique. And when you're using prayer, then clearing your mind is actually a great step before you actually start praying, so you can focus your thoughts and your intentions, make them clear. So let's just have a look at prayer quickly. As I said, I mean, there's various types of forms of prayer that you can actually do. You can get into a runic stance and use that as prayer. There's also, when we commonly think of prayer, it's about getting on your knees. You may see or imagine a child at the foot of their bed on their knees with their hands on the bed, and they're praying like this, and they're saying, "Dear God, help me." I often say, "Dear God, help me," but anyway, but they've got their hands like this, palms touching. Now, this also goes way back. If you actually look into Chinese medicine, acupuncture and things like that, you'll probably know that there are certain meridians that run through the body, and they're kind of like energy lines that run up and down the body and throughout the body, and they transfer energy around. One thing I learned years ago was that there are energy or meridian lines that actually end in the tips of each finger, and on all fingers. So what you do is you actually bring those meridians together and you connect them. So it's almost like completing a circuit in many cases. So you touch the fingertips together and you complete that circuit, and the energy can then flow from one meridian into the next meridian. So the prayer position is actually like that. And so you've got the tips of your fingers touching, and which completes the circuit, but also allow a space between the palms, and this allows energy to actually flow and form. And you usually bring it to your heart center with elbows out. This is very much, I think it's in Tai Chi. I know. It's used in Falun Dafa, especially with the first exercise. Every movement that you do actually comes back to this position. Sorry, I do forget the name of the position. Naughty me. Anyway, so this is the prayer position. So as I say, fingertips touching, so you've got energy moving from meridian to meridian, and you're completing the circuit, and a space between the palms to allow the energy to just flow, circulate, and move, and it builds up energy. So that's actually why we put our hands like this to pray, commonly. You don't have to do this when you're doing prayer. I usually don't. I usually do all my morning exercises, my breathing, my meditation, etc., my Falun Dafa, and then I just sit and I just talk. I just plainly have a conversation. I don't specifically talk to anybody. It may be God, it may be a deity, it may be my higher self, a spirit guide, my ancestors. I don't particularly focus on who's listening. You could in fact say that I just talk to the universe, just the cosmos. And through that talking, through that conversation, I kind of bring a situation that I want to bring into my future, and I bring it into the present, as you would do with a manifestation technique. And then I chat about it. So, for instance, I'm setting up a new shop online, and so what I've been doing this week is I've been talking about my shop and how well it's doing, and you know, from the day I launched, all of a sudden I'm getting customers, and they're repeat customers, and they keep coming back, and I'm so happy because, you know, I'm getting 60-70% return customers, and that's amazing. I mean, for any kind of shop, any online business, that kind of return is incredible. So I've got all these customers coming in, and I'm finally making the money that I want to actually make, that I've been wanting to make for years and years and years, just through this one shop that I just put up. It's just one extension of my business. And whereas I've been struggling before, all of a sudden I've got all these clients, all these customers, and they're incredibly happy customers, and they're just bringing in more money, and they're making me happy, I'm making them happy, and it's just a fantastic relationship. And that's what you do. You bring the situation that you want into the present, and you just talk about it. You just discuss it with somebody. It's like having a chat with a friend, and that's basically what you do. And it is prayer, because you're talking to a spiritual being. Whether it is you, yourself, your higher self, that's still a spiritual being. Whether it's an ancestor, that's a spiritual being. If it's a spirit guide, it's a spiritual being. If it's a blade of grass, if you look into animism, everything in this physical world, in this world that you can see and unseen, everything has a spirit to it. So even you can talk to a blade of grass, you can talk to the spirit of that blade of grass. And you are then talking to a spiritual being, and therefore, in my interpretation, maybe not everybody's interpretation, but in my interpretation, that is prayer. And I'm going to leave this video where it is now, because I didn't want to go on and on and on about prayer, because it is a very simple technique, but it's a very powerful and effective technique. So if you like my content, please go check out the other videos, because they are quite, especially the last video last week, that's quite important to any kind of manifestation technique, I think. It helps calm the mind and get you into a state of being and a state of mind where you can actually then manifest quite easily. And that's it for this week. And if you do like my content, please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and comment. I would love to hear from people. Love to hear your experiences, your comments. If you disagree with me, that's great. Disagree with me. It gets me thinking as well. And please share if with anybody who you think could benefit from this content. And you'll see me next week. Cheers.